How do you identify personally and in engineering contexts?
I am male. My first language is English, but immigration and international status is a topic I care a lot about because I'm Hispanic and my parents were immigrants. Well, actually, my dad was an immigrant and my grandparents on my mom's side were immigrants. I'm a veteran and my wife and I are starting a family, so you could say I'm a non-traditional student. I'm just over 30, and now I'm back with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds. I got my first degree in biology with a marine concentration, so I knew I wanted to be on the ocean. As I was finishing that up, I was selected for the Navy's Nuclear Officer Candidate School, which ended up essentially being a master's degree in nuclear engineering. I was fascinated by all these cooling pumps the size of a car, nuclear reactors, warships, submarines, all these marvels of engineering. I was in love with the material, but it was extremely difficult because I had no engineering experience. Academically, I was at the very bottom of my class. I've never been at the bottom before. I realized that I didn't have the necessary background knowledge to finish the program, so I transferred to surface warfare. I was there for almost 3 years. My time in surface warfare was extremely difficult and a cause of a lot of heartache and headache. My chief hated me. It was awful. I hated my team. It was bad for morale, and it led to the end of my naval career. I didn't fit in on that ship. My best friend on that ship was black, and he suspected it was happening because we're both minorities. I tried to fix it. I tried to keep my cool, but I would end up crying, sobbing, a lot. It was a very toxic workplace, like public humiliation, verbal abuse. It was a nightmare. It was the most difficult experience of my life, and I had to get out. As a transition back into civilian life, I became a high school teacher for 2 years, but knew I wanted to become an engineer. So in the summer of 2021, I went back to school, and now I'm getting a second bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering.
What are some identity-related challenges you have experienced in engineering?
When I first started, I was still teaching, so I'd have to email my professors and say, look, I might not be able to attend this class right now. The academic year for high school is almost over, but it overlaps a bit with the university's summer semester. Are the lectures recorded, or how else can I get the information? A lot of them were really receptive and understanding. I think my age plays a big role in my studies. My schedule is always different because I have very different priorities than a lot of other students. I have a family, so I don't have time for hanging out after class in the library and getting together and forming study groups. I just have a completely different life. I don't participate in any clubs or associations or extracurriculars. I just go to class and come home so I can take care of what I need to do, whether it's home improvement or all of my other tasks and chores like mowing the lawn, laundry. Especially once I picked up an internship, it just became work and school and then, life at home because time is the most valuable asset. It changed how I study. I think part of it is my age where I have more discipline and I treat it like it's my full-time job instead of like just school. I have to kind of build education around my life as opposed to someone who's younger who builds their life around their education. Another challenge is all the different classes I'm required to take and retake. I don't think that a lot of the advisors understood, or maybe they just didn't really care. So, although I had already taken Physics 1 and 2 and Calc 3, I had to retake all of them, even though I'd been tutoring higher level mathematics and science courses for a long time and teaching high school chemistry to advanced students as recently as a year ago. I even ended up having to retake some humanities courses. I did this for my first degree. When I tried to explain this to my advisors, they didn't care. They said, well, these are the requirements, so you're going to have to take them. So, there wasn't much I could do. I had this notion in my head that maybe I can go speak to the dean and just get it resolved or waived or something, but that never happened. It's difficult because I'm like, please stop wasting my time and money and let me get out of here so I can actually work and contribute to society. I've exhausted my savings. I had a decent amount, but over the past few years I've exhausted it. I was really frustrated with the advising office for not accounting for my background or prior schooling. Like, at least let me try to test out of classes I've already taken or something. Part of me thinks that they just want to take your money and waste your time. I know that's not true, but all of it means money. And it means time, which is more valuable than money to me. All I wanted to do was really finish my mechanical engineering degree as fast as possible. As far as other identity challenges, I do try to give people an idea of who I am and the things that I've accomplished or the experiences that I have. So I feel like I'm an open book. But as a veteran, I think maybe they assume I'm retired and I'm like 40 or 50 and I'm going back to school. But I'm in my early 30s. I think some people hear veteran and they assume like warfighter, deployment, Afghanistan. All the time I just hear thank you for your service, especially via email. Their responses are like, I'm this great warfighter that has been to Afghanistan and I have strong character and I'm super tough. And, some of those things are true, but others just aren't. I spent a lot of my time up and down 3rd Fleet, which is what we call the Pacific. I spent some of my time in the Atlantic as a U.S. representative on some foreign ships. I've launched one missile before, but it was a test Tomahawk. I don't know. They don't really know what I'm talking about as a veteran unless they've been one themselves.
What would you say to a professor about these issues if you had a chance?
As someone who has to commute to campus, I would say consider their commute. It takes a couple hours out of every single day. Consider their life and the things that they're going through. Every day, things happen to people. Even me and my family tragically lost a loved one this past summer, and I had to miss class. I think most professors are understanding of that type of thing, and they'll figure out a way to work with you. I haven't had any issues, maybe because I'm so open and clear with professors, and I'm always in class and in office hours, so they know who I am. Other students might not have the same experience, especially if they don't regularly attend class or office hours, so the professor is more hesitant to accommodate them. While that's mostly the student's responsibility, I think professors could still do more.
What advice would you give to someone like you entering engineering education?
I don't know. On the one hand, I would say take more classes. Instead of just taking 4 classes per semester, try to take 5 or 6. But on the other hand, if you really want to take advantage of your GI Bill and the funds that you receive from it, you might want to take fewer classes and finish in 5 or 6 years. I don't know. I could give more advice on specific class material, but in terms of the engineering program as a whole, I would say just finish as soon as possible. Finish as soon as possible to get to the workforce. That's what I'm trying to do.